and then you'll be using those to assemble your own annotated bibliography. And you have to evaluate based on your topic whether the sources that you have are going to be of any use or not.
We have 4 of those. Well, it's 4 groups, so that'd be 3 sources each.
2 each, so that'd be a total of 4 in a group would be a total of 8.
Okay. 2 sources each?
Yes.
Sorry, just trying to figure this out. It's different.
Okay. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started with the slideshow here, because we have a lot to get through with this, because obviously if you saw the video lecture, it was a double length lecture. So we're going to do this fairly quickly here, and I'm going to hope my connection holds on. The previous section, I tried to do a session with that, and I had connection issues. So we're going to see how long this lasts for me here today. Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about evaluating sources briefly, and then we're also going to talk about the final exam materials. Okay, we'll go into some details about what that's going to entail. All right, so I'm going to get started with this. Starting with the reliability of sources. Once you have performed research on your topic, you need to go through your resources and evaluate them for use in your essay. Okay, they have to be evaluated in a critical manner, looking for anything that might disqualify them or call their reliability into question. So, again, read with a grain of salt. Sometimes evaluating a resource is more than just confirming facts presented are correct. It also involves evaluating how the facts are presented, the context, and the tone the author gives to the presentation of the facts. So, are they Are they trying to manipulate the facts to fit a certain viewpoint? Or are they doing it fairly? Okay. All right. When you read sources rhetorically, you need to read sources with your own goals in mind. That is, focused information will directly help or hurt your own essay's argument. Okay. If you are in the early parts of your research, you're going to be using a lot more overviews and abstracts to get a handle on the subject of each source. Further on down the line, you want to analyze how others are using the information, including practical uses, and keeping your mind open to ideas. Okay? Read the sources in a rhetorical manner. Evaluate the sources based on questioning their source. Okay? Be skeptical about things. Where are they getting the information from? How are they using the information? Right? Talk about who is the author. Okay? Look for their credentials, affiliations, and educational background. Typically, print articles, these come at the end of the article for most publications. You can also run a Google search for the author to see what kind of stuff they've done before or what kind of affiliations they have. Also can look for other works by the same author, see what else they've done, and see if they are credible in the field. Okay. Also look at the source's genre. Okay. What kind of audience is it intended for? Who are they trying to reach? What kind of publication did the article originally appear in? Okay. What other kinds of articles were in that publication? A couple things there. All right, then we hit the purpose of the author. How is the author attempting to shape the audience's views? So look at what type of writing it is. Is it expressive, informational, analytical, or persuasive? Okay, artistic, academic, that sort of thing. Who sponsored the site it came from? Who's profiting off of the work? Okay, what is the publication's reputation? What kind of things have they done before? What kind of things are they known for? Author's angle bias. What data and information does the author cite? Where are they getting their information from? What kind of sources do they have? What are the author's underlying values, assumptions, and beliefs? Can you tell what they think about the subject? Can you tell what they believe in? And what is not included? What have they left out that you know is factually there and possibly relevant? Okay. All right. How do you typically take notes? Let's talk about taking purposeful notes. So typically, a student's going to take notes in the classroom setting. They're going to be doing it by trying to copy by rote what the professor says. When you're taking notes on research, many students are going to do their original research by simply photocopying sources. This is a bad idea, as this leads to regurgitation rather than original ideas. Okay, we don't want you using photocopies. We want you to try to use purposeful notes when you are doing research. And as such, Yagelski recommends taking 3 columns on your notebook and putting information like this. In the first column, you want your bibliographical information. Okay? That would be your article name, your author name, publication date, publisher, everything that you need for preparing a works cited page. Next, in the middle column, that would be informational notes on the source. So that would be where it came from, what other materials presented in the same issue, and quotations from the source. Okay, what kind of information did it have? Okay. And then finally, in the third column, it's the exploratory notes. So this would be the self-evaluation of the value of the source, the questions the source raises, the ideas about how the source information fits in with your thesis. So this is where you're going to be establishing how useful that source is going to be to you. Right. We get to background information, which is one of the possible functions of sources. You have four main functions of sources. One is as background information, we present perspective on the greater context. Okay. Second is as an alternative viewpoint. If it's counter to your thesis, it's one that you can summarize and respond to, or try to refute it. If it agrees with your thesis, then you could just mention it briefly and say, this is something that is another viewpoint that's taken that is actually in line with my own argument. You can use it as information or testimony. Okay, so that's going to be using it as evidence for your own thesis. It could be counter to your position or raises doubts about your thesis. In which case, you'd also have to try to refute it. It can also involve theory or method to influence the approach, if it's going to be a guideline to how you're going to approach the topic. Okay, that's another way you can use it. So evaluating sources for reliability. How accurate is the source against other sources reporting the same or similar facts? Okay, are they all in line with with the factual information they're presenting and the conclusions that they make? Are facts distorted to serve the author's own agenda? Are they looking at something through a weirder lens than you would like? Are they skewing things to serve an agenda? Is the manipulation of facts acknowledged by the author? Because if they acknowledge how information can be massaged or manipulated, then that's going to add to their credibility. It's going to make you aware, okay, yeah, this person's admitting that there's a possibility that people could take this the wrong way. Okay? Are the facts checked by an independent source? Okay, a lot of fact checkers out there. Okay, how well edited is the source? Editing is more of an issue with web-based sources. However, if you have a better edited web source, it's going to be much more valuable than a web source that's very slipshod in its editing. As far as credibility goes, this is going to be looking at internal factors from the author's perspective as opposed to external factors, which influence reliability. Okay, so it's going to involve how much do you trust the author? Okay, do you trust the author? Are they an expert in the field? Have they done this stuff for years? Okay, are they a trustworthy observer? Somebody to be relied upon to give you a objective viewpoint. If it's an oral presentation, is it someone who can read the room? Do you like the way they dress? Something like that. Okay. Also, is it a popular author or a not so popular author? Because that popularity may also amount to credibility. Okay. One thing to keep in mind: writers earn their credibility through moral courage, integrity, and consistency of principle. And the lecturer used the story of Woodward and Bernstein to illustrate how writers earn that reputation. Okay. We have angle of vision. How does the author's underlying values, assumptions, or beliefs shape the argument as it is presented? What is it? How's it going to influence the way you're looking at it or the way they're looking at it? So you want to research the author. Okay. Look for their politics. Look for their education. Look for what kind of upbringing they had. Look for the reputation that they have as a writer or as a professional in the field. Also want to research the genre. Okay, look at the audience that's being written for. Okay, who is it that they're trying to address? Okay, the market niche for the publication. What corner of the market does that exist for? Okay, who are they trying to reach? Also, look at the political reputation of the publication. What kind of stuff have they done before? What kind of candidates have they supported? What kind of politics have they promoted? Okay. This gets into the political spectrum and how useful this is for evaluating angle of vision. Base knowledge is going to be useful in the evaluation of sources, knowing where stuff lands as far as left wing or right wing. Obvious bias toward one end of the spectrum or the other can lead to coloring of facts to suit their politics. It may render those facts unusable for the sake of a persuasive essay because it will be untrustworthy. Okay. So we have some examples. I showed you this chart. What exactly are we reading? Chart for media bias and I also showed you the updated version, most recent one, which is version 6.0 from July of this year. Okay. Then we have to look at degree of advocacy. How obviously does the author take a stance in the source? So is it intended to be an objective work or is it a persuasive work? Okay. Another thing to keep in mind is, does the author have skin in the game? Is there going to be some direct benefit that the author will reap from the situation in the writing? Okay. Or is the author just a mere observer? Are they just looking from the outside? For membership in advocacy organizations such as the NRA, the Sierra Club, and the John Birch Society. These can also influence the way your author influence the way that they present their arguments and what kind of arguments that they do present. Okay. Look at if the author holds a grudge. Okay. Weigh the evidence carefully. Interpretation of data can be called into question, especially if you know that there is some kind of personal vendetta that the author has against such. Okay. Neutrality is usually going to provide better resources than an advocate. Okay. This includes going into social media. It tends to be a minefield of opinions, so be cautious about using sources from sites like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. This gets into trolling and the Spot the Troll quiz, which is your questions of professor activity for this week. To take the quiz along with me and see what you get right, you get wrong. See if you can are an effective troll hunter. Let me talk about web sources. Okay, they can be wonderful, not convenient and easy to use, but they'll also be a minefield of opinionated articles and urban myths. So you need to evaluate web sources similarly to how print sources are judged, and use critical reading and research into sites to help evaluate them. So again, authority, objectivity, coverage, accuracy. Those are all things that you look for in other types of sources as well as in web sources. But a fifth thing you need to look for in web sources is currency. When was the last site update? When was the article uploaded? Is the information current or relevant at the present? Okay. If it is an article that's been reprinted like several thousand times and it's just now appearing on the web, it may not be as relevant as it was when it was first published. Okay, so keep that in mind. When you're looking at evaluating web sources, one thing that also helps is domain identifiers. They're key in determining credibility of web sources. So, for instance, .com sites. Okay? Those are commercial sites. They promote businesses or marketing. Keep in mind that most major newspapers are also .coms, and most major newspapers are going to be credible. Okay? You have .orgs, which are nonprofit organizations or advocacy groups. Some of them are neutral. Most of them have a distinct angle of vision. They are usually reliable, especially if you're researching the group that it belongs to. .edus are college and university sites. They typically include institutional information, as well as scholarly and advocacy links. Again, those are usually reliable. Then you have .gov.mil, which are government agencies, military units, and they offer a wide range of data and support for policy. Once again, these are usually reliable. So you want to evaluate your own purpose for using the web source as well, to help in the evaluation process of your sources. So is your purpose looking for an objective viewpoint on the subject, or do you need an advocate? Do you need somebody who has an opinion and somebody who's going to express that opinion. Okay? That gets us through evaluating sources. So the next thing we're going to do, really quick here, we'll take like 5 minutes, answer some questions, and then we'll get into the final exam overview. Okay, because there's a lot to both of these things, and I want to get to as much as possible. So, anybody has questions, go ahead and raise your hand. I will recognize you. All right, Jed, I see you there. What's your question?
I'm sure you've heard this a bunch of times, but I just want to confirm. So are the discussion boards, are they mandatory or are they optional?
The weekly discussion boards are mandatory. They're not getting graded until they lock, which is December 4th.
What about the questions for the professor?
Question of the professor is intended for practice.
Okay.
Those are actually will contribute to participation as opposed to anything else.
Okay. All right. Thanks. So when is the annotated bibliography? That's due 13th
Yes.
November.
Yes.
Okay, and mind tap is mandatory. That's right.
Yes. Yes.
All right. When's the final exam due?
The final exam week is going to be the first full week of December.
Okay.
So that's the week of December 7th.
All right, that sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Trevor, I see your hand there. What's your question?
So for the annotated bibliography, we have to come up with, I think you said, like the topic sentence, kind of what we want to write about overall.
Yes.
So for instance, our group is talking about like loot boxes in video games. And so I was thinking maybe writing like the psychology behind how it affects people. Does that make sense as a topic?
Well, that makes sense as a general topic, but also keep in mind that your individual topics, I want you to try to come up with a topic that lends itself to a proposal.
Like how to what to do differently with it to make it work better?
Yeah, that would work. Yeah, that would work.
Okay. So like instead of loot boxes, they could maybe do this to increase revenue, but it doesn't, affect kids and gambling or whatever.
Right. And then you're going to be using the sources that you're collecting for the annotated bib to inform your proposal essay. So that's why this is going to lead directly into the proposal.
Gotcha. Okay, so we basically talk about what's going on and then how we think that we could better go about it afterwards.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right, Ian, I see you there. What's your question?
Okay, so I think our group is trying to focus on care as a general topic.
Okay.
But what I focus on, let's say, associative healthcare and how that could benefit these people. Is that what you're kind of trying to get at? Like, I'll find 2 sources that are related to associative healthcare. Someone else will find something. Huh?
Yes, that's exactly what I want. You're going to have your focus, and you find your 2 resources based on that focus. Now, the challenge of this when you get to the proposal is to integrate everybody's sources, if you can, into your own argument.
Okay, but for the time being, I find my 2 sources related to my focus topic. The group finds their 2 sources, but do we ever conglomerate them together?
You have to. Everybody's going to use the same group of sources, so you have to contribute. Everybody has to give their sources to everybody else. You have to take a look at their sources and then write your annotated bibliographies by summarizing each source and evaluating how useful they are to you personally.
With 150 words max, I think you said.
I didn't set a maximum word limit.
You didn't? It said 150 words. Instructions.
That's the instructions that came with the framework. I am mainly looking for you guys to write at least a paragraph for each, giving a summary and an evaluation of the source. I don't have a word count at minimum on that.
L, H, E, and D.
So after I find the two sources of related associative healthcare, I'll give that to everybody else, but I still use those sources, right? No one else does.
So you're going to be using everybody's sources. Okay.
In my essay, proposal essay.
Your proposal essay, you need to use as many of the sources as you can that the group gathered. Okay. You're using the entire annotated bib for that proposal. If there are certain ones in that annotated bib that you can't use, you can knock them out. But as many of them as possible, you need to use.
So my only goal for this essay is to choose my focus sources, my two focus sources, and annotate. I'm going to do what you just told me to do.
Yes. But I have to include the other ones that the group brings you.
Basically, we're all writing about the same thing, but our own perspective on it.
Yes. Exactly.
It sounds like it'll be quite a few pages as well. If you do a paragraph per source, it'll be a lot of writing.
If you do it right, it should be if you do it right with let's say four members, 8 sources, that should be at least 3 pages.
They have to go that remote access is there. Remote computer.
Right. Are there if there's any other questions, go ahead and bring them up. Otherwise, we'll move on to the final exam overview. All right, Trevor, let's go ahead.
Okay, so essentially you want us to look at each source and write a little bit about each source, kind of what they're talking about. And we go down the page kind of writing that, and then the very last thing we do is write about the change, like, okay, they said this, now how do we make it better? That's kind of what you're saying?
Okay, let me try to clarify here, okay? Primarily speaking, when you're writing the full annotated bib with everybody's sources, you need to keep in mind your own research question, what you're going to be doing, what you are trying to accomplish with your proposal. Okay? Now, as you go along with each source, as you do your write-ups for each source, you include the summary of the source and whether that source is going to be useful to you personally or not.
So you'll actually put in your writing, like, this source helps?
Yeah, and the reason why it would help.
And the reason why. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now, once you're done with the annotated bib, when you turn that in, and then when you go to do the proposal essay as the next assignment, you'll have that as your works cited page. All you need to do is just take out the annotations and whichever sources you can't use.
Oh, so this whole assignment is really just getting the most information kind of boiled down to the important stuff, why it's important, and getting to all of that. Then we use that information we now found to write the next essay.
Exactly.
That makes so much more sense. All right, I'm good.
All right. All right, if there's no more questions, we're going to move on to the final exam overview. All right, so final exam for this class. Final exam is going to be a timed writing assignment. So you will need to secure a proctor to administer the exam for you. What they're going to do is act as a timekeeper and make sure that you don't cheat. Okay. Since people were asking about this yesterday, the exam period is going to be the same amount of time that you would have if we were doing this in person, which is going to be 1 hour and 50 minutes. Okay. The exam is going to be administered on eCampus. I will be probably about 3 weeks prior to the exam. I will be sending out I will be posting a document that you can print and give to your proctor, which will give them the instructions they need for administering the exam to you. Okay. Currently, if you go under the final exam tab on eCampus, there is an exam packet there. It'll give you most of the necessary materials for the exam, as well as a list of 4 possible questions that may appear. Okay. And just real quick here, I'm going to show you what that packet kind of looks like. All right. Unfortunately, still got the 1301 designation because both of you guys are using the same topic, but you're using different questions. All right. But this is your final exam packet here. Okay. And you will notice on the bottom here, it is 37 pages long. Okay. It is going to be extensive amount of reading here. I've got some visuals as well. But you want to use all of this for your exam. Okay. These are all going to be good resources for you. There's also a list here of hyperlinks to video clips and links to another article that I did not want to reproduce because this would have made this at least a 65-page packet. I didn't want to do that to you guys. All right, so get back to the slideshow real quick. Anyway, the packet is something that you need to print out. Okay. You also need to perform some further research into the materials that I'm giving you, especially if some of it is unfamiliar. Okay. If you need some more information before you can do it. Also, there's 4 possible questions. 2 of them will appear on the exam. Those questions are given to you in this packet to help you study so that you can practice writing your essay within the allotted time. Yes, Angelina, you are expected to print this. There's a good reason for that. The reason is that you are allowed to use this packet in the final exam period, okay, along with any notes that you write in it. As the main idea of this exam is not to test how well you memorize random facts. It's to make sure you are able to express yourself in a under a time crunch. Okay. So you can print this and you can use this in the final exam and refer back to it when you are writing your exam response. Okay. So with that said, final exam topic for this time around is children's television censorship. All right. Always under intense scrutiny, children's television can sometimes veer into areas where general adult audiences become more uncomfortable with subject matter. Reactions to these ventures into the wilderness can vary on a local or national scale. Many times when the ire of the adults thinking of the children is raised, it leads to the censorship or wholesale change to individual episodes or entire series. Okay. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when this stuff happens, there's no usual suspects when it comes to what causes the controversy or what shows it appears on. The only thing that's really common with a lot of these is that something angers a potentially powerful membership of the audience and leads to banning of episodes, cutting of scenes, or in some cases changing of characters. Okay. Sometimes it's not necessarily the audience that's causing it. Sometimes it is government regulators. Okay. We talked about that a little bit. The issues causing controversy change over time, ranging from issues with violent content and overtly offensive behavior to uncomfortable social movements and uncomfortable societal ills. Okay. All right. So the first article in the packet comes from Looper. It is a list of 11 children's TV episodes that were so controversial they got banned. Okay. It's kind of a misnomer there because one of them is an entire series that wound up being banned from broadcast in the United States. But, the general idea of the list is a good one because it gives you an overview of a lot of the topics that will cause children's episodes to get banned. Okay. Violence, for instance, the episode being Gargoyle's episode Deadly Force. Another one, offensive content and language. Dexter's Laboratory episode Rude Removal is an example. Another one, the Cow and Chicken episode Buffalo Gals. The episode causes physical harm to viewers. In this case, it's Pokemon, the episode Electric Soldier Porygon. You have excessive death portrayals. For Tiny Toon Adventures, the episode One Beer. And for Sailor Moon, the episode Day of Destiny. You have offensive religious content. The entire series of Garbage Pail Kids was banned for this reason. Also, the Powerpuff Girls episode See Me, Feel Me, Know Me. Okay. There's also possibility for overt sexual content. In this case, the Batman, the Brave, and the Bold episode, The Mask of Matches Malone. And Outlaw Star, the episode Hot Springs Planet Tenray. And the last one is just generally promoting antisocial behavior. This winds up being the oldest episode on the list. This is Dudley Do-Right episode, Stokey the Bear. Okay. Now I'm going to get through this. I'm going to play some of the videos that are in the exam packet. One of the videos is the accompanying video for the Looper article. Okay, so you can kind of get an illustration of why these are getting banned. All right, we have 3 case studies in the packet. First one is an individual episode, and it's the episode Deadly Force from Gargoyles. This was the 8th episode of the first season. As I mentioned in the lecture, this show had a 5-episode pilot episode, so this was actually the 3rd regular episode of the series. Plotline centers on guilt felt by the Gargoyle Broadway after he accidentally shoots the Gargoyle's human ally, police detective Elisa Maza, with her own gun in her apartment when he was playing cowboy with it. Okay. The episode, again, originally aired in syndication in 1992. Okay. When it started appearing on Disney-owned cable networks, this episode was removed from the season rotation. Okay. Other networks that showed the series digitally removed blood from the scenes where Elisa was shot and other scenes where she was shown bleeding. Okay. In 2013, the episode was restored to the rotation for the DVD collection of the first season. In 2019, the series was made available for streaming on Disney+. This episode was in the rotation, however, it's been altered to remove the scene that you're looking at here with Elisa sprawled on her kitchen floor bleeding out. Instead of showing this, now they go to close-ups of her face. Okay? Next one is the case study on Sesame Street. It's an entire series. Now, as you know, Sesame Street is the gold standard of American children's television. Okay? Currently in its 50th season, it's now shared between its original home on PBS and its current home on HBO. It has earned no shortage of criticism, though, over how issues have been portrayed on the show. The loudest and most harsh criticism has involved portrayals of social issues such as multiculturalism and societal ills. As I mentioned in the video, one of the biggest opponents to this show in its early run was people in the South who were not very show. In fact, after a campus shooting, the governor of Mississippi did that and because it showed an integrated neighborhood, and he felt integration led to violence. Okay. One of the ways that the show has handled controversy is by introducing characters who introduce children to these societal concepts. And usually in response to criticisms and have integrated them into the show's overall storyline. Some of the characters include this one that's on the screen here. That's Roosevelt Franklin. Okay. We have character of Abby Cadabby was used to talk about divorce. Okay. They introduced character Julia, who's on the autism spectrum. Alex, who has his dad is in jail. Lily, whose family is food insecure and eventually homeless. Last year, they introduced Carly, who is in foster care, and her parents are in opioid rehab. And even foreign versions of this show have gotten into controversy. South Africa's version has a character, Kami, who is HIV positive. there's a case study on the general topic of LGBTQIA plus representation, which lately has become one of the bigger hot button topics that has caused issues with children's television. Okay, specifically portrayals of relationships and characters. Okay, much of the censorship surrounding this issue gets enacted in foreign countries when shows are localized. In the video, I gave examples of Steven Universe getting censored in both Russia by having its voice actor changed from female to male, and in the UK having a dance sequence cut because it looked too romantic between two female-coded characters. Okay. The U.S. is no stranger to this either, because they had the localization of Sailor Moon, where they decided that to explain the closeness of Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune, they had to make them cousins instead of lesbian lovers as they were in the original context. The only problem is, by making them into cousins, now all of a sudden, hey everybody, it's incest, yay! Okay, so sometimes it leads to more problems than it's worth. Okay, shows have been developed in recent years that have had this type of representation built into them. Sometimes it's the framework the entire show is built around. For example, Steven Universe and also She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Okay, both of them have at their center LGBTQ characters and relationships. While many shows can only get away with it in closing seasons or episodes, more shows recently are being overt about it and have backing from their platforms. Okay, that's the big thing, is that a lot of these ones, a lot of times the creators were trying to get this stuff in and they were going against network executives. Well, now you have some more supportive network executives out there. Okay, there's a lot of stories about network executives who have basically told them, as soon as you put this stuff in, that show's over. Okay, so keep that in mind as you're looking at this stuff. Then we get to extra resources. This is the stuff that I have linked in the packet. One of them is Impact Nottingham. Has a 5-part report on LGBTQIA plus representation. 1 platform per article. I did not include that in the packet because it would have made it a 60-page packet, and I really didn't want to do that to you guys. Okay? So I gave you the link so you can see it independently. Now, there's 12 videos that are linked as well. Give samples from these shows that are affected by these issues. I will give you right away, the first 11 are the shows that were mentioned by Looper. Okay? The other shows that are included in this list, Sesame Street has 3 examples. Okay, Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts is the scene where it's revealed that the lead male character is gay. Steven Universe, it's the lesbian wedding that they made headlines for portraying on their show. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, it's a overview of the relationship between Adora and Catra, which was the central relationship of the show. Gravity Falls is clips with Sheriff Blubbs and Deputy Durland. Legend of Korra, it's the final scene of the series, confirming the relationship between Korra and Asami. Adventure Time, it's the overview of the relationship of Princess Bubblegum and Marceline. And then the last one is the Owl House, which is the most recent example, and actually the thing that triggered me to actually create this packet in the first place, because of the uproar that the episode involving Luce and Amity dancing and apparently entering into a relationship. So, what I want to do real quick here is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to try to do at least 2 of the clips from the packet. Okay? So, one for sure I'm going to do here is the Looper episode. Okay? So we're going to take a look at that video real quick. After the ad.
Think of animated shows as harmless kids' fare, but that isn't always the case. Each of these cartoon episodes were so raunchy, so stupid, so downright confusing that they were denied an audience entirely.
Oh, we can't see it. We're just seeing the word page.
A devoted fan base for its complex plots, fluid animation, and serious.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I'm only looking at the Word document, but not the video.
Video didn't come through. I should be sharing the screen. Hang on a second. Let me try this. Let me try to share the browser instead of the. It's supposed to be sharing my entire screen, but it decided not to. So let me go ahead and share the application window. All right, let's try this again.
Yeah, I see it now.
All right, here we go.
Think of animated shows as harmless kids' fare. That isn't always the case. Each of these cartoon episodes were so raunchy, so stupid, so downright confusing that they were denied an audience entirely. From its 1994 debut, Gargoyles gained a devoted fan base for its complex plots, fluid animation, and serious storytelling. As an action-adventure series chronicling the lives of gargoyles who come to life at night to protect the places and people they love, the series explored themes including frustrated love, urban crime, and corporate greed. This willingness to go to intense places made Gargoyles an enduring hit that lives on in cosplay and tie-in comics to this day. In the minds of network executives, it also crossed the line. Season 1 episode, Deadly Force, is a compassionate, albeit stern story about gun safety, in which fun-loving gargoyle Broadway accidentally shoots human detective Eliza with her own gun. She is badly wounded and barely survives emergency surgery, and Broadway goes on a frantic, guilt-ridden crusade against guns. Ultimately, a very important lesson is learned about the safe handling of firearms, but not before several seconds of Eliza with a bullet in her belly filled the screen. Deadly Force was pulled from rotation for a while, and subsequent airings on spin-off channels to Disney and Disney XD seemed to that only Eliza's anguished face. Regardless, the Gargoyles team remains proud of the message they sent about gun violence in this episode, and stand by it as a thoughtful examination of firearms and their mishandling. Dexter's Lab was one of the biggest successes of 1990s animation, an irreverent send-up of everything from mid-century space-age ambition to Marvel action heroes. At the heart of it was Dexter, a megalomaniacal child genius with a secret lab behind his bedroom bookcase, and Dee Dee, his goofy tutu-clad sister. Their clashes defined many episodes of the show, and typically went to bizarre extremes. When Dexter sought to grow a beard to display his manliness after Dee Dee's teasing, or when Dee Dee inspired a crush in Dexter's arch-nemesis, Mandark. That sibling rivalry reached new heights in Dexter's rude removal. In this infamous episode, Dexter develops a rude removal system to remove Dee Dee's more irritating qualities. This backfires, and Dexter ends up creating two versions of himself and his sister, a polite, vaguely British pair, and a pair whose every other word is censored by profanity bleeps. Despite its completion, Dexter's rude removal never aired. Series creator Gendy Tartakovsky mentioned it from time to time, growing its legend, until finally it surfaced on late-night programming like Adult Swim's website. Despite the fact that no curse word is ever actually uttered and censored, mere fact their existence was too much for delicate ears.
Clear choice. Thoughtful, John Cornyn.
I really wish they would stop putting ads in the middle of this stuff, especially this political crap.
Tycoon Adventures was known for its wry attitude toward cartoon conventions. Babs, Buster, and the rest of the Acme University gang regularly poked fun at the expectations and tropes of the media, from subverting slapstick gags involving mallets and banana peels, to contrasting iconic jokesters like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck with genteel mortarboards and academic tropes as a university. On cartoon setting, characters' names like Mary Melody ripping off Warner Brothers' legendary Merry Melodies cartoons. The whole cartoon rests on a foundation of metatextual ribbing. That went a little off the rails with the infamously banned One Beer. Lucky Duck, Hampton J. Pig, and Buster Bunny go on a whirlwind bender when they drink beer for the first time, quickly plummeting from wide-eyed kids to stubble-chinned lowlifes. Despite the fact that Buster opens the escapade by outright saying, in this episode, we're showing the evils of alcohol, and ending it by asking if they can do a funny episode tomorrow now that they've lectured the kids, One Beer was banned until 2013, when it was finally included in a DVD release. Let that be a lesson to animators across the globe. We try to teach valuable lessons. Cow and Chicken never pretended to be anything but crass. Its titular siblings, excitable second grader Cow and hot-tempered fifth grader Chicken, regularly got into trouble that made it clear that they were there to make kids laugh, not provide moral guardianship.
That's a good way to lose a beak. Ah, shut up, Cow. Mind your own business.
Take, for example, their enemy Red Guy. Might have actually been the devil, but was most notable for not wearing pants. Among his many aliases were Officer Panskovsky, Mrs. Beardaria, Major Wedgie, and No Pants De Leon. No joke was too crude for this cartoon to indulge. There was, however, a limit the censors did not want crossed. Cow and Chicken found it with Buffalo Gals. 7 solid minutes of lesbian jokes. Unsurprisingly, it faced resistance from network executives, though it lives on through the magic of the internet. Dudley Do-Right, Stokey the Bear was intended in the spirit of fun. Canada is roundly, if kindly parodied in the episode, as the home of trees, lumberjacks, firewood industry, and, well, not much else. Snidely Whiplash is doing his diabolical deeds to better barbecue his hot dogs. Stokey was meant to be very much a parody of Smokey If Only You Could Prevent Forest Fires fame. Hypnotized by Snidely into setting fires. All in good fun, right? Wrong. The US Forest Service wasn't too pleased with the spoof of their beloved mascot. No small part because Smokey was created with a very particular purpose in mind. One the episode was deliberately muddling. Understandable, perhaps. Especially given that the episode's final gag implies Stokey was responsible for the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. The episode was yanked, Stokey was snuffed, and it never saw airtime again. Batman the Brave and the Bold was a self-conscious tribute and recreation of Silver Age DC Comics. Bright, funny, and abashedly nonsensical. From the retro aesthetic to capers with titles like Invasion of the Secret Santas, Brave and the Bold was all about having a good and goofy time. Mostly, this resulted in kid-friendly hijinks of the laser guns and magical truth serums variety. In the mask of Matches Malone, Brave and the Bold got downright naughty. When they're caught sneaking into a nightclub, Huntress, Catwoman, and Black Canary think fast and perform Birds of Prey, a throwback toe tapper about the men of the DC Universe that stuffs an innuendo into every other line. This ranges from Catwoman crying, "What a weapon, what a bang about Batman," the implication that Green Arrow doesn't always shoot straight, and the complaint about the Flash being just too fast. What got the episode booted off the Season 2 DVD collection was a suggestive finger waggle Huntress deploys when discussing Aquaman.
His little fish, less outrageous.
With a bit of reanimation to remove the telltale finger, it was included as a bonus episode on the Season 3 DVD, and thus everyone now knows all about the male members of the Justice League and their prowess, on and off the battlefield.
You want to buy this place, but first you have to sell this place. Zillow Offers makes it easy.
Cast your mind back to 1987 and recall the Garbage People Kids trading card. Their success rested entirely upon the fact that they were utterly disgusting little artifacts of childhood grotesquerie, a perfect parody of the apple cheeked goodness of the Cabbage Patch Kids. With such characters as Atom Bomb, Uzi Susie, and Snotwitch Sandra, they were pulling no punches when it came to grossing kids out and cracking them up. But the 1987 Garbage Pail Kids cartoon went too far for the US viewing audience. Starring Split Kids, Bob Dwayne, Elliot Mess, Terry Clough, and Patty Putty, the eponymous kids used their disgusting powers to save the day. Groups including Action for Children's Television and Christian Leaders for Responsible Television protested, however. And the show was yanked from the airwaves mere days before release. Though it did go on to air in other countries, it never saw the light of US viewership. Garbage Pail Kids were, to be frank, dumped. English language dub of anime mega hit Sailor Moon cut and censored so many things from the original Japanese version, it merits a video of its own. Many of these changes have become infamous. Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune, originally lovers, were changed to cousins, and multiple instances of implied nudity was scrapped. Before many of these now infamous choices were made, however, was Day of Destiny, finale to Season 1. Originally a two-parter, Day of Destiny sees Sailor Moon and company storm the evil Queen Beryl's Arctic fortress. Her henchmen attack, and the battle quickly goes south. Sailors Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Venus all die on the ice, and Sailor Moon is forced to charge Beryl on her own. Given that the original Japanese title of the first episode is Death of the Sailor Guardians, the tragic final battle, it is perhaps unsurprising that it was cut. The finale reduced to one cobbled-together episode for the US market. While it wasn't outright banned, the original version was just too much for kids. 1990s playgrounds the world over found themselves beset by a new fad. It was called Pokemon, and it still has yet to release its grip on young minds. Kids just can't get enough of Pikachu, Squirtle, and the gang. But a rumor haunted the franchise early on, mutating as it passed from kid to kid. There was an episode, they whispered, that was banned. The internet was in its infancy, and no one had ever seen the fabled episode, and so the tales grew unchecked. Even today, you might hear a child whisper about a killer episode of Pokemon no one has ever seen. Unlike other kids' legends, this one really did turn out to be true. Electric Soldier Porygon is the episode in question, and it was indeed banned from the airwaves for reasons of public health. Hundreds of Japanese children were rushed to the hospital after it aired in 1997, suffering from seizures, convulsions, and vomiting. It turned out that a brief moment of bright strobing animation induced this illness and set off a generation's favorite bit of gossip. 20 years later, it still fascinates us, but luckily, those seizures know to keep well away. Powerpuff Girls was never a show content to be normal. The very premise itself, man combines sugar, spice, everything nice, and a mysterious black ooze creates triplets, is bizarre. And episodes hinged on everything from elaborate Beatles parodies to the sinister effects of glue consumption. But in season 5's See Me, Feel Me, Know Me, this was taken to new heights. In an homage to rock operas like Tommy, the episode is a sung-through musical in which the girls meet a magical gnome who promises to vanquish all evil in exchange for their powers. He makes Townsville into a cult. Eventually, the day is saved. Townsville is restored, and the gnome is defeated. So why did Cartoon Network keep the episode off US Airways? Questions swelled for years until show creator Craig McCracken finally provided some answers via his Tumblr. And it because they claim that the metal beams in the destroyed buildings looked too much like crosses, and one of the hippies looked like Jesus. The staff was surprised and the fans were deprived, but it all worked out in the end. The episode is available to anyone who wants to watch it on Hulu, iTunes, or on the original series DVDs. Anime exploded into popularity in the late 1990s, and Toonami, a Cartoon Network programming block aimed at the action-hungry after-school crowd, was a huge part of why. From Sailor Moon to Dragon Ball Z, Toonami had the coolest, edgiest, often weirdest cartoons Western kids had ever seen, as it kept them glued to their TVs. New episodes appeared daily. Movie-length specials were hyped for weeks prior to airing, and occasionally, Toonami even pushed the boundaries of what was considered acceptable. Action was tougher, faster, and more intense on Toonami. Jokes were a bit more edgy. Outlaw Star, a space-faring action series, often pushed that line, but one whole episode was deemed unacceptable, impossible to edit into suitability, and unceremoniously dumped. It's no surprise as to why. Springs Planet Tenrei sees hero Gene Starwind descend to a world of beautiful saunas filled with even more beautiful and always unclothed ladies. In the end, kiddie viewers just had to deal with the lack of continuity. Until many years later, it aired on the late-night reimagined Toonami, intended for just those kids who love it the first time around. Check out one of our newest videos right here.
Alright, so apologies for the ads that kept popping up in that. So I want to do at least one more, and maybe I'll do another one by request, try to let you know which ones are short here. So the other one I wanted to show you is the clip from the Owl House. This would be the Amity and Luce dance. Give you an idea of why people are taking the path that they are with it. Incidentally, also the show creator did confirm eventually that the character of Luce is intended to be bisexual.
Did you want to ask Al? Oh, it's not important. And there you have it, folks. A happy ending for this year's prom. The big hand to our prom queen, Luce and Amity. You did it, buddy. Of course I did it. I'm the king of demons. I've never had stage fright in my life. They love me.
All right. There's that, and let's do one more here. You know what, this one's the one that's more significant. Let's go with that one. So this is the lesbian wedding from Steven Universe. It should be at least it'll select. There we go. There we go. All right, that was huge, influential, culturally important because of the milestone it created. And also kind of screwy because, as I mentioned in the lecture, it made the Russian translation make no sense because they made Ruby's voice male, so they gave her the dress. All right, so let's do a couple more minutes worth of questions here, and then I'll cut you guys loose. I know this ran a little long. I apologize. There was a lot of stuff to get out here. So a couple minutes here. Any questions? Any last minute questions anybody has? Go ahead and pipe up with them. Raise your hands. All right, so everybody wants to try to sign out then. We'll go ahead and cut you guys loose then. Oh, yeah, Trevor, go ahead. What's your question?
So I just want to be clear because I haven't been doing amazing on my essays. This annotated bibliography is not itself an essay. It is more of a culmination of information.
That's right.
Okay. I just want to be as sure as possible.
Okay, no
Thank
problem.
you.
All right, Ian, go ahead. I see your hand there.
Okay. The topic I chose for our group is would a shift into a single mode of healthcare benefit the U.S. population? That would be our general topic: healthcare shifting to a single model. That can be anything universal or private, and each one of us can dissect into our own viewpoints on that subject. Let's say I go to associative healthcare. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's exactly what I'm trying to get at.
Perfect. Getting lower grades on my essays. I mean, 89 and 90, but my participation's been okay. I would say I've been participating in all the discussion questions. I'm about to finish up the 3 I've been missing.
Okay.
Am I doing okay?
Yeah, really, yeah, nothing to worry about. You're doing fine.
I'm just worried about participation because I'm trying to participate in every single lecture, and I know it's been just kind of complicated because of PTK and everything, and I'm an officer.
Oh yeah, I understand, but no, it's you're doing okay with that as well. I mean, you're as long as you're keeping up with the class, and as long as you're doing your best with the discussion boards, you should be fine.
And with the optional grammar, it says optional grammar, but it says counts towards grade. I'm still doing them, but optional because that sounds like to me it's like.
That's how MindTap designated it. That's not how I designate it. So.
Okay. Say counts toward grade completed. Okay. Good.
Yes.
I have a question. So, hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, so like, I guess 2 days ago or something? Yeah, 2 days ago, I asked someone to get a search for a new team and stuff, but I haven't heard a response yet, so I'm because well, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm still trying to find a new team so I could collaborate with like other people.
Okay. Okay. So keep checking with the teams on the discussion board if you can find one that's short on number or willing to take you in, and you can work with them. Just as much as possible, try to keep contact with any of the other teams. If anybody here wants to contact him and let him know that you got space for him. Yeah, we got some people who have teams that are not really doing much of anything or having trouble with keeping up with things. So we want to make sure that these teams are working together. Okay. So if anybody's got space for him, okay. And yes, that would be a general enough topic. Okay, people can come up with their own takes on that. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and sign you guys off. We will recommence this next week. Thanks for coming by. I will see you then. There will be a new lecture next week and another one of these sessions on Thursday. I'll see you guys then.